Hey everyone, welcome to KSSP Podcast. I am Spencer,
I'm Katie.
and today we're going to be talking about addiction. So, to start that off, I just have a definition here about addiction that I'll read. So, addiction, a primary chronic disease of brain reward, motivation, memory, and related circuitry, where a dysfunction in these circuits is connected to an individual pathologically pursuing reward and or relief by substance use and other behaviors. Individuals are considered to have a substance use disorder when use interferes with the ability to fulfill role obligations at work, school, or home. Often, the individual would like to control use of the substance, but attempts to do so fail and use continues to increase.
Yes. Okay, so I'm gonna go over some stuff. I do just want to clarify that this is just an amalgamation of different things I've learned between my personal experience and from counselors and other like addiction professionals, I guess. If I'm not showing you the data directly, then I'm not claiming any data behind the statement. But this is just from both my personal experience and my education through rehabilitation through addiction of my own. So, okay, if you feel you have an issue with a drug or alcohol use that is affecting your ability to live a functional and satisfactory life, here's a few steps you can take. Step number 1 is to find a detox center or hire an in-home detox nurse if they're available in your area. If you must detox at home, make sure to have somebody to keep you company if possible, because they will hold you accountable for resisting the temptation to pick up more of your drug of choice. If you are detoxing off of alcohol or benzodiazepines, do not detox at home. If there's not an open detox center near you, go to the ER so that you can be medicated for deadly withdrawal symptoms and monitored. If you're addicted to opiates, finding a Suboxone provider will increase your likelihood of a successful recovery. Of course, this is a personal choice, but just know that the option is there, and choosing it doesn't make you any weaker or any less sober. Medication-assisted therapy, or MAT, in general, is a very useful tool for many recovering addicts and alcoholics, especially for those of us with comorbid mental health issues and comorbid health issues in general, too. Look through options for paying for treatment. Whether you think outpatient or inpatient is a better option for you, that's always going to be like based on each individual person and up to what they feel is honestly best for them after having honest self-reflection. This will, like I said, this will vary from person to person though. Your health insurance will most likely at least partially cover your treatment, if not completely. Some states have social programs that provide funding for treatment as well, so you can look up if there's any kind of programs for you in your state. You can look at all kinds of options for funding treatment and for where you want to attend treatment in general. At least for the beginning of your recovery, explore support groups. Data shows, this is the one I don't have the data for on file. I can look it up if we want to, but it shows that having a solid support system increases your recovery success drastically in a good way. There are many options for this. The most popular 2 options are AA/NA, all the anonymous groups, and Smart Recovery. While AA and NA and the like are more spiritually focused, Smart Recovery is a program based off of CBT. Now, I personally prefer Smart Recovery myself. That's just a personal preference. But whatever group you choose, or groups, if you want to go to more than one, make sure it is a space that feels safe to you. Like a space that you feel you can just be safe being yourself and opening up, not a place you feel like you're going to be judged by anybody in the group. Because if you don't feel safe, then you're not going to be able to fully process your emotions and really truly heal. And step number 4 is to create a recovery plan. Figure out what you're going to do when you're tempted to use again. Learn coping skills, learn how to say no, and learn discipline. Recovery looks different for everyone. It doesn't imply that you need to avoid all substances at all times. It is a tailored experience. Now, that does work for some people. Some people are better with an abstinence only recovery journey, and that's fine. Some people are better with medication assisted treatment or even moderated use. It's the primary goal of recovery is life improvement. It honestly doesn't even matter if you lapse as long as you're functional and satisfied with your life. People really make a big deal out of lapses and relapses, and like almost like some people even see them as a moral failing, but it's really not.
Mm.
Like, if you can still function, you're not like relapsing to the point where your life is starting to go downhill. I mean, honestly, like that's not even a problem at that point. But you need to be honest with yourself about what the best recovery journey is for you. That's really important. It takes a lot of self reflection. It takes a lot of healing, a lot of the healing process, and you're not going to be able to decide that instantly. Like, you do need to go through some kind of treatment program before you decide what the best recovery journey is for you, and figure it out along the way with other supports. Avoiding the drug of choice is generally the goal because it can be hard for most addicts and alcoholics to avoid overuse once the use begins, but this doesn't even necessarily have to be your goal. Recovery goals are personalized for every individual, and these are things to discuss with a therapist. I personally achieve that moderation can be achieved in certain cases. I'm not of the belief that a lack of abstinence always implies failure in recovery. Recovery, now you still don't want to let it take over your life because, of course, that's when it gets bad. If it is taking over your life, then it is a problem. But if it's something, if you can manage, like, let's say you're an alcoholic, you want to maybe have like one drink a month that, like, when you go out to dinner with your family. Like, if you can have like that, maybe one, maybe even two, like, but maybe not more than that. But if you have it depends on every person individually, but if you are able to manage your use like that and it's not interfering with your life, like everything's still going great, it's not interfering with your relationships, with your home life, with your responsibilities, your obligations, like work, school, whatever the case might be. Like, if it isn't impacting that, then yes, it is a problem. But if you're able to continue functioning and being satisfied with your life, then like there really isn't an issue at that point. But recovery is not about the substance itself. Recovery is about your relationship with the substance, and that is something you need to be honest about with yourself. What is your relationship with each substance that you use, and do you need to change this relationship in order to live your best life? So the National Institute on Drug Abuse of National Institutes of Health says that family studies that include identical twins, fraternal twins, adoptees, and siblings suggest that as much as half of a person's risk of becoming addicted to nicotine, alcohol, or other drugs depends on his or her genetic makeup. And if you are going to continue using drugs, then that is your personal choice. If you're not hurting anybody, if it's not destroying your life, it's perfectly fine. Or even if it is, and if you're not ready for recovery, I mean, it's not going to help you to go to treatment if you're not ready for recovery. So if you are going to continue using, no matter what the case is, just remember to keep some tips in mind for safety. Tip number 1 is get drug testing kits, especially if you're using opiates. But really, if you're using any drugs, but especially opiates, any drug that can be laced with like fentanyl, for example, these days. Like, I've heard of meth laced with fentanyl. I haven't heard of weed laced with fentanyl yet, but I mean, obviously, heroin laced with fentanyl is the big one. Cocaine laced with fentanyl, whatever. Like, there's all kinds of drugs that can include fentanyl in them. The reason people do this, it's cheaper. It's a cheaper way to get your customer high, and you don't have to use very much of it for it to be effective. So it's very cost effective for people making money off of this because this stuff isn't regulated, obviously. And yeah, fentanyl overdose is very easy to accomplish. Even if you're an experienced user, it's still very easy to overdose on fentanyl. Doesn't matter how much you use a day. Like, I mean, your tolerance can go up if you use it a lot, but like it's still very potent no matter what. If you cannot use drug testing kits, or even if you can, always test your drugs in small doses every time you pick up a new batch. The safest way to use most drugs is to smoke or vape them, as opposed to swallowing, snorting, or injecting them, at, at least with opiates. With opiates, definitely smoking is the safest way to go, very low risk of overdose versus swallowing, snorting, or injecting. And third tip, be especially careful with your dosing when you're mixing narcotics. If you dose too highly, the enhancing and contrasting effects of the body will make you much more likely to overdose. So know your tolerance and use in small increments. If you wait 20 minutes and you still feel the need to use more, that's fine. Just make sure you're still using in small doses each time, at least until you're absolutely sure of the quality, you're absolutely comfortable with your tolerance. Like, just take it very slow in general. Um, yeah, so some drugs are much safer than others. So keep these numbers in mind when you are dosing. I have a couple of statistics here that I want to show really
Okay.
quick. So let me share my screen. So this is the ratio of fatal dose to effective dose. So what that means is that for every for every amount that will get you intoxicated, like it will be this many times more than that to overdose. So for example, we can start at the bottom with heroin. If let's say if 1 gram gets you high, then 5 grams will lead you to an overdose. Nutmeg, so that would be 1 to 7. I don't know what the root tetra is, but 1 to 8. GHB 1 to 8. Um, Dextromethorphan is 1 to 10, as is alcohol. Cocaine is 1 to 15. MDMA 1 to 16. Codeine 1 to 20. Mescaline 1 to 24. Ketamine 1 to 38. Dimethyltryptamine is 1 to 50. Nitrous oxide inhaled is 150. Psilocybin and LSD are both 1 to 1,000. And marijuana is 1 to over 1,000. They don't have an exact number. I believe, I believe I've seen 1 to 15,000 is what it is when I've
Mm.
seen the number for marijuana. But I could be wrong. But that's what my memory's serving me right now. So as you can see, definitely some drugs are more dangerous than others. And so we'll look at another one really quick right here, just to explain the graph a little bit better. So if the effective dose for heroin is 8 milligrams, then the lethal dose would be 50 milligrams. And the dependence potential is very high. Morphine, effective 20 milligrams, lethal 300, and dependence potential is just high. Barbiturates aren't that common anymore, but, effective 250, lethal 5, moderate to high dependence potential. Benzodiazepines, 1 milligram effective, 30 milligrams are lethal. So, that one, it's moderate dependence potential. Alcohol, 30 milligrams effective, 300 lethal. That makes it moderate dependence potential. Caffeine, 100 milligrams effective to 10 grams lethal. So that's going to be moderate to low. Cocaine, 80 milligrams effective, 1.2 grams lethal. That's moderate to high dependency. Ephedra, 25 milligrams to 3.5 grams. That's a moderate. MDMA, 125 effective to 2 grams. 125 milligrams effective to 2 grams lethal is moderate to low. Nicotine, 1 milligram effective to 50 lethal. That's a high dependence potential though. Let's see, ketamine, 70 milligrams effective, 2.7 grams possibly lethal, and that's a low dependence potential. nitrous oxide, 3.5 liters effective, 525 liters lethal. That's moderate to low, dependence potential. So, effective dose 100 micrograms to 100 milligrams lethal. That's going to be very low dependence potential, as well as mescaline, which is 350 milligrams, effective to 8.4 grams lethal, very low. Psilocybin, so mushrooms basically, 6 milligrams effective to 6 grams lethal, also very low dependence potential. Now, marijuana, it says, yeah, 15 milligrams effective to over 15 grams lethal dose, which I don't know if anyone gets inebriated off of some of these measurements, quite honestly. I don't know how they came up with the effective dose, but, anyways, but the proportions are still the same no matter what the effective dose is. You go by this safety ratio. So,
Yeah.
dependence for cannabis is moderate to low. So, overall, recovery is a personal choice, and the only way any form of recovery will be successful if the addict is ready to change. There's nothing you can do for an addict who doesn't want to get treatment except for holding boundaries with them and being supportive if you can, if it's healthy to do so. If their drug use is affecting their relationship with you, not just bothering you because it's drug use, but if they're acting in ways that they wouldn't normally act or treating you less respectfully and less nicely, etc., because of the drug use, or if the drug use is actually impacting your relationship, it's fine to set boundaries in place or even stop talking to them until they get help if you need to cut off that, if it's such a high level of toxicity that you need to cut it off. That's fine. But if their use isn't hurting your relationship or you still wish to maintain the relationship, the best thing you can do is be supportive of them and teach them how to use drugs safely until they are ready to recover. So that's about all the information I have on addiction for today. So,
Okay.
Spencer, you have anything you want to add?
Um. No. I would say another important aspect maybe to consider with addiction sometimes is what like led you to it.
Yeah,
Because I
definitely.
know
Yeah,
it's not necessarily gonna be for everyone. Because not everyone necessarily. Because like some people might just be with their friends and try a drug and then just get addicted that way. But some people might be using it as an escape from
yeah.
like a life, like their
Well,
life,
and some people even just are prescribed something medically,
and
and
then
then
get
that can
addicted.
lead
Yeah.
to an addiction if it's
So
not
those
well
cases
monitored.
are, I would say, more like those would be more neuroscience related because
Yeah,
like that's your brain. But if you're using the drugs because of a life like where you're at in life maybe or whatever it
yeah.
is, if
Well,
you're
I think,
unhappy with certain situations, then if you don't address those, even I would say getting off the drugs isn't going to help because you're still going to be unhappy and like you still have to address the underlying cause that led you to the drugs. If
yeah,
obviously if it was like a prescription or you were with friends and I mean if it was a peer pressure then I would say the underlying cause would be those shouldn't be your friends because no one should pressure you into doing things ever. Like if you aren't comfortable doing something, don't let someone convince you to do it cuz
yeah,
that's just not a good person. No one should be
right,
pushing you into doing things that you aren't comfortable doing.
yeah,
But if it's like something, although I understand that it's not necessarily easy to fix our life circumstances, especially I would say in this our society, but
oh yeah,
you still need to at least address it and understand what led you to it so that you
yeah,
know if you can change that, then that is something that you're going to want to change even with stopping the drug use too if that is your goal as well because just stopping the drug use isn't going to fix the other underlying.
oh,
And I
absolutely,
bet they probably go over that in like the CBT, like the smart, because that's a big
absolutely,
part of therapy in general, I
yeah.
think, is just
And it
understanding
is
like
a lot of
things.
it is genetic, but it's also a behavioral disorder, really.
Yeah.
Like
I think,
it's
yeah,
forming
it's
rituals
both kind
and
of.
forming a relationship with the drug and all of that. Like like it's
Yeah.
different
Because
than
I'm
like
pretty
something
sure,
habitual that's
yeah.
comforting to the person. Like even just the ritual is comforting.
And I'm also like, your brain will, like, it obviously is withdrawal is not a good pleasant feeling, but your brain will go back. Like the what is that? Negative feedback? Like it kind of resets. Or I'm pretty sure maybe there's some drugs where your brain never recovers, and it's I don't know. I'd
I think it
have to
takes
look into
7 years
that,
for all of the cells to replace themselves,
okay. But they do. So
but
they're
they do
like
eventually. Yeah,
yeah. So you are like you can if that's your goal, like it will kind of go back to normal I guess in a sense.
yeah, and I mean, yeah, I don't know if everything recovers 100%, but it
Oh,
does
okay.
definitely recover over that time. Like it gets better still.
Yeah. They probably have like medications that can help
Oh
for
yeah,
the
that's
parts that don't recover so that you don't have to
right.
necessarily turn back to the drug either. Like
Right?
there's
Yep, and that's what I was talking
medication.
about with the medication assisted treatment.
Oh, yeah, okay.
They have lots of
And that's part
options
of
out there.
smart therapy too, isn't it? Or smart
Smart
whatever.
recovery?
Yeah.
That's more
Or
of
I
a
guess that could
support
be.
group than like a doctor.
Oh, okay.
Like that's just like something if you don't want to go to AA, usually go to smart recovery. Like
Okay.
that's usually
But
what
they
leads
have
people to smart
therapists.
recovery
But they have
in my
therapists in
experience.
smart recovery.
Do they have what?
Therapists to do CBT.
They don't have therapists to do the CBT,
Oh.
but they have like a book
Oh,
that
okay.
teaches the CBT. So it's not just like somebody going on about CBT with no
Oh.
reference. Like there is a
Okay.
book like with CBT information that you can that you do reference in the groups.
Okay. But yeah, I think that was. Let me just double check and see if there's anything. But definitely figuring out kind of what led you to that. So,
Right. And like
addressing the underlying condition too.
right, the underlying issues, any underlying conditions, etc.
Because here it says research continues to discover genetic influences in addiction,
Yeah.
but currently scientists estimate that genetics account for 40 to 60% of a person's vulnerability.
Yeah. That sounds about right.
So genetics definitely play a huge role. And then obviously
Mhm.
there's a bunch of other
There's
there's
like
like
environmental
social,
factors,
yes,
social, like
environmental,
watching a
social,
parent grow up using
psychological,
or drinking.
yeah.
Like,
So there's a lot that goes into it. It's not
yeah,
a simple clear cut issue, I would say.
yeah,
And then obviously the drug war hasn't helped anything either, but
right. And the drug war actually makes people less likely to seek treatment
see,
because they don't want to
yeah,
get in trouble with the law.
yeah, which is awful because
Yeah. And
that's
I
not
mean,
going to
I
help
don't think
anyone.
that they can, like, I don't think that they can report you to the police if you go into a rehabilitation center, but there's still a lot of misassumptions out there, like incorrect assumptions out there about what will happen because people aren't educated on rehabilitation or treatment or anything. So, like, rumors get spread around or whatever, however it spreads, the misinformation. But no, they definitely won't, like, just call the cops on you, like, unless you have
I
a
don't,
warrant. If you
I
have a
don't,
warrant, then they can do that if they choose to. But if you don't have a warrant and you're just going in as a user and you want to get treatment, then yeah, they're not going to call the cops on you.
I don't know if legally they can though, can they? Because of
I'm
HIPAA and
pretty well. I don't. Let me look it up to be sure.
okay.
But like, I'm pretty sure that like if you have a warrant, then like let me see for sure.
Because are you talking specifically about? But I guess like treatment centers, I would assume
U.S.
have the
treatment
same.
centers, yeah,
But I would assume they'd have the same policies as ER, like emergency, like privacy wise. I would assume since they're all healthcare related. Because obviously, if you show up at the ER, they like the importance is medical care, not
right,
throwing people in jail. But I would assume the same thing should be at a rehabilitation center. The importance is rehabilitation, not throwing people in jail.
right. Throwing people in jail for drug use or even drug dealing to me is ridiculous unless they're also doing violent things, in which case you charge them for the violent crimes as well, and then they might go to jail or prison. But if
Yeah.
they're just dealing drugs and not committing violence, like I don't even think in that case they should go to jail. I think those
I
people
mean,
should
maybe if
also go to
they're
treatment.
Yeah, they should go to treatment. But as if they're dealing to kids though, that's a big issue though, I would say.
Okay. But I want to know. Okay. Oh, you're right. Um, you're right. HIPAA does play a factor in it.
Okay.
And then, yeah, in
Although,
most cases, police would not enter a rehab facility premises to arrest an individual unless they did something illegal in the rehab facility.
okay, I still think we have yet to see the repercussions of HIPAA laws with the overturning of Roe v. Wade, though. So I don't,
Let me see when
because
this
I've
was written.
heard people say,
Oh, this does not say when it was written, I don't think. So that's
okay,
great.
because I've heard people claim that the HIPAA laws were also kind of enshrined in the Roe v. Wade decision. So now that that was overturned, in theory, HIPAA laws are. But I haven't myself looked into that, so I don't know the stand. Like I don't know how much weight to give that claim, but it's definitely something to be wary of if that's because obviously now people can turn you in for having an abortion, so your HIPAA
Yeah,
laws are already broken if somebody can
right.
rat you out. Like that breaks HIPAA completely. So
Yeah.
it's odd. I mean, that obviously decision was terrible, but that
But see, like even I didn't know all of the information. Like
hmm?
it's hard to attain all of the correct information for different questions you might have if you like want to check into a rehab, you know.
Yeah. What do
Um
you mean?
like there's just a lot of like unclarity. Like it's not
Oh,
clear.
yeah.
Like what
Yeah.
you need to do, how you'll be treated, if you get arrested, like all that stuff.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, so definitely I mean, I don't the HIPAA laws should still protect you, but
But we'll see what direction the country goes.
yeah.
Anyways,
But otherwise I think yeah, I don't think I have anything else right now that I can think of to
yeah,
add then.
I think we got it.
Okay. So if there's anything that you guys want us to talk about in future episodes, or if you have any comments about this episode, leave them down on this video below.
Yeah, you can also reach us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. We sometimes go on Twitch.
Yes, so don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you can be notified when we do. And we will see you next time.